into 2 assessment cycles, while the Ed TPA is a comprehensive assessment that covers everything that the Cal would have done in those 2 assessments, okay? There's a difference in price, as you may know, but the Cal TPA's combined price of the 2 assessments is the same as the total price of the Ed TPA. Now, Christina and I are not recommending either one to do. It's totally going to depend on what you want to do. So if you're interested in continuing with the Ed TPA, you would go with Christina. If you were interested in going Cal TPA, you would come to me, right? Because how you decide to approach this assessment is totally going to depend on you, all right? So TPA resources that you'll need, you should have had access to these from your university or your county of ed, wherever you did your credential at. If not, when you register for your assessment, you can access all of these items via the platform that provides all the resources for there. So a couple things that we're going to do, and I'm going to use them today too, and Christina's going to use them as well too in her breakout room, the use of the assessment handbooks. These handbooks are practically your encyclopedia or your guideline on how to attempt and navigate the assessment piece. It breaks down each task or each step within the assessment that you need to be mindful of. There's a connections to rubrics there that I'll talk about a little bit later. There's an understanding of what I need to make sure that I have completed per section of that specific assessment. There are templates that go along with that, Word documents or PDFs that are fillable that you need to utilize when you're uploading to the platform. That is something that you need to become a little bit more aware of. Christina and I will be sharing our screen so you could see what those documents look like and how you can go about in filling those out, either with us if you're here or through your support with your mentor or anybody else at your school site. Rubrics are really key because later on I'm going to talk about acceptable support. Your rubrics are going to be what guides you in what you submit. And we're going to gauge for you where you should be at or where you should consider looking at in trying to pass the assessment, knowing what you need to fulfill. Because in certain cases, you need to be able to actually voice that either through your writing or through your video recorded lesson. You're going to need a video release form. Okay, each district has their own video release form that is issued out to parents, typically at the beginning of the year. If you're ALA Unified, that usually gets accompanied with the parent handbook, but you can also pull out that video release form from there as well too if you need your students to submit that. Please be aware that if you do not have a video release form, you cannot video record your students. So be aware of that and consider that when you're timing the date of your recorded lesson. Also, you don't need to submit the video release forms to TPA or anybody else. Those are only to be kept in your possession and the school's possession in case anybody were to ask about those. And then finally, we're going to provide some links for the Ed TPA and Cal TPA webinar that's given over by the state of California. It's a great opportunity for you to be able to get more information outside of this if you're seeking to do so, where we are not recommending that you do any of this. Obviously, this is just items that you should be aware of that's available for you as resources to get further understanding with it, because our timeline with our support sessions through cluster 4 are pretty long in between, right? And even though we are going to invite everyone to our development sessions and office hours a bit later, it's understanding that if you're not able to go to those sessions, that you're aware of the timeline and where we're going to be at in the next session. So our cluster 4 support, we have a series of items that we do. Bullet number 1 and 2 are practically the same in a sense that the PD development that we're providing in cluster 4 is almost similar to what we do with our own candidate teachers, where we dedicate work time to review and analyze the prompts that are given to you on the templates, and hopefully provide some type of opportunity to surface some of those assumptions that we have and reflect on what we have. We try to create a cohort within our groups to be able to encourage peer support, which will hopefully reinforce some of those items in the template. And also consider that there will be opportunities where we can direct you on how to get access to shared resources through your colleagues or through your specific district or program. Office hours will also be are also another item that we include, and you're more than welcome to attend those. If you have direct questions, they're more for individualized support and check-ins. We will be running those on a monthly basis. So when you see the flyers, we'll share that with you towards either the end, or we'll share that over with Cluster 4, and they'll hand them over to you via email at any time. So these are our support sessions. On the left-hand side, you'll see the flyer. So just be aware of that flyer, knowing that, you know, what we're doing. So within those development sessions, we're really digging deep into unpacking the specific sections. So like today, we're unpacking the planning and practice part. When we meet with our candidate teachers, because we're meeting more frequently than we do with Cluster 4, we're able to actually tackle some of those pieces within each assessment and try to surface where you would need more clarification, more comprehension, or anything else. You also see to the right the virtual office hours that are also available as an opportunity, and we do encourage in both sessions that you bring all your resources, your questions ahead of time, lesson plan design ideas, curriculum resources, because it's much more successful that way if we do that. It's definitely not a time where Christina and I will be doing any direct teaching, okay? Somebody was speaking, if you wanna unmute yourself. Okay, maybe we lost connection. Hopefully they come back. Ah, there you are. Okay, so I'm gonna keep on going. Okay, so maneuvering over for the guidelines for support, right? In these specific sections, we need to be aware of what are some acceptable supports that we as Ed TPA or Cal TPA support staff can do, right? So there are things that we can do with you. We can discuss the task with you. We can discuss the scoring rubrics that go along with that. We can also discuss items that support documents that you want to introduce. We could go over the rubrics and see if we could construct a reflective practice that'll enable us to be able to go through that. We can refer you back to the rubrics. We can ask questions that align with the rubrics. And our specific support is going to always be directed back to what the assessment guide says and also what the rubrics say. So as support providers in this sense, we are limited to what we can and can't do, right? So what we can't do, and I think that this probably clarifies a little bit more, we can't edit anything on your behalf. Like you can't share like, hey, can you read this and you can take a look at it? All we could do is we could look at it and then just say, what does the rubric say, right? We can't tell you which video clips to use in either assessment platform. We can't critique the work, and we can't upload the TPA for you. The state is very strict and clear about what we can and can't do in this capacity. So we're going to go ahead and just jump in really quickly on what are some common themes that we see within the TPA. But before I do so, I want to open up, are there any questions about what we just covered right now before I move on? And if you want to enter it into the chat, you're more than welcome to do so, or you could go ahead and unmute yourself if you'd like.
Can I just ask if it's going to be organized by cycle 1 TPA and cycle 2 TPA?
Great question. And the way that we're going to organize it between there is that the good thing about the Cal TPA is that it has similar setups as far as what we need to do. But if with me, I'm versatile enough to be able to switch between cycle 1 and cycle 2. So today, when we go into breakout rooms, I'll be able to address both cycles at the same time.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So again, there is a question about the RICA that comes up. This is not the RICA presentation. There was another link for that. Christina, we said that we didn't. Is there a link, or we?
Yes, there is a RICA link. Thank you for the participants who are able to share the RICA link, and I will resend that through the chat now.
Thank you so much for that. So looking towards the planning part. So our goal today is for us to become aware of what to expect for the planning part. Again, some of you are already in cycle 2. Some of you remember this from your Ed TPA. It's an opportunity just to remind ourselves what I need to be aware of when I'm submitting this assessment. So first thing I need to be aware of is the context. In whichever TPA you do, I need to know what the classroom information is, right? What do I know about my students? Right? What are some things? Are they EL learners? Are there students with identified disabilities, GATE students? Are they standard English learners, English only learners? What do you know about your students, right? Also consider, how will all this information, the funds of knowledge that you gather from them, how will that guide your lesson development, okay? The lessons itself. Being aware that whichever assessment you're doing, what is the identified learning segment that you need to be aware of, okay? What are you going to teach? Which curriculum are you going to use, and which standards will I be addressing? Cal TPA and Ed TPA are not asking you to teach a specific curriculum out of Pearson, McGraw-Hill, or any other publisher. They just want to know what you're going to be teaching and how are they aligned to the standards. And when we talk about standards, we also need to consider the ELD standards that you may need if you do have English language learners in your classroom. And when we discuss English language learners in your classroom, be aware too of those students that have reclassified, as they still need support throughout the process. What support systems are you going to put in place for your students? How are you going to monitor student learning, right? Consider the varied learners in your classroom. You have kinesthetic, visual, auditory, all sorts of different types of learners that are in there. What are the varied language demands that I need to be aware of? How is that going to contribute to that? And then also consider, how will I just address UDL? And we'll talk a little bit more about the universal design of learning and how you're going to put those pieces in place. How are you going to build up these support systems in your classroom that will enable all students to access the curriculum? Materials. What are you going to use? What are the instructional resources that you're going to need to be able to actually do this assessment, right? What will I need for the lesson? What will students need to engage in the lesson? Are there manipulatives? Are there specific types of templates that you would need? What is it that the students will need in order for you to be able to do that? And for both assessments, there are going to, especially Cal TPA Cycle 2, you have to consider the ed tech that goes along with it. Now, we did a great job in remote learning and learning all sorts of ed tech pieces throughout. But now we're back in the classroom. What does ed tech look like now? Am I still using Nearpod? Am I still using all these different types of interactive tools online that'll do that? The cycles are going to address those specific items, and you should be aware that those do also work towards the instructional resources that you are providing for them. And then what tasks, right? What are the lesson activities and assessments that you're going to utilize? What will my students need to complete in the lesson? Is there an assignment? Is there an exit ticket? How will I monitor their learning? What assessments do I have planned? Are they informal? Are they formal? How will I respond to them? How am I ensuring my students are using rubrics to self-assess themselves? How will I facilitate these expectations to my students? So for those of you that are teaching in a dual language setting, when you create your actual lesson plan, you have to make sure that you're as explicit as possible when it comes to it. So however you're going to be teaching it, please make sure that you are creating that context and how that's going to look like in your actual classroom, because your credential is either a single subject or multiple subject, but you have an authorization to be able to teach in that specific setting. So although it may look like in a different language, it's important that you're still building that context within your preliminary parts to make sure that that is there for you. And yes, Amanda, and this for everybody else, the slide deck will be sent out to Cluster 4 in the form of a PDF. So next steps for everyone. Review once you get the PDF about what we discussed today. And then a lot of it's just going to be more in our small breakout rooms, right? Get all your video recorded forms ready to go, because you want to make sure that you have that taken care of. Sign up for the TPA if you haven't done so. And also consider that if you already registered for the TPA and you paid, and many of you will see that you have a specific deadline. Like one of the things that we've seen with our candidate teachers is that December is coming up quick. That's their cutoff time. If you don't think you can submit it by December, please contact TPA, rather Cal or Ed, and let them know about your situation to see how they can arrange some form of extended time or refund. We don't know what that actually looks like on our end, but that's been the indication for us from the state to tell all candidates to make sure that they follow up with TPA on their end. Begin working on the planning section that we're going to talk about today, right? Because the next time we come around, we want to make sure we focus in on a different section. Or if you're going to come to our development sessions, please make sure that you get through that approach too. Consider what information you can get. Many of our districts are now operating on a database application. So whatever your school district uses, please make sure that that's what you're utilizing to gather any type of student data. Also be aware that there's privacy that goes along with it. So when you are identifying specific students, please consider the use of pseudonyms to protect their identity and their privacy. Develop a goal completion. What do you want to do? By November, I want to finish the planning section, right? I want to wait. By February, I want to do the planning section. Whatever it is, you will need to be aware that your credential condition code started once you were recommended and approved for your preliminary credential. So if you were recommended this past June, right, the 5-year window has already started for everyone. So understand, if you got it much earlier, your window is a little bit shorter than others, and being organized and being able to take care of every single little piece is vital, because you don't want to wait till the end to get this taken care of, because you have to anticipate if you don't pass a specific part of the cycle that you would have to do the whole assessment again. Work with your induction personnel for support. Continue coming to these cluster 4 meetings, come to our TGI, TPA sessions, or office hours to get better support with that process. I will be sharing due dates, and Christina will be sharing that as well too on her end, what those respective due dates may be. And if we can't share them, we'll definitely send them over to you so you can be aware of those. But there are specific cutoff dates that we'll share with you so you can see when you would need to submit it and when would you get your results by. So before we go into breakout rooms, I know that Christina, I don't know if you needed any space to be able to say anything before we go into those rooms.
Not necessarily, Enrique. I just wanted to logistically just make sure we both have the feedback survey link.
Right. So at the end of our breakout rooms, we're going to be providing the survey link for you. So I believe it's in there already, right, Christina? Or we could go ahead and put it in right now.
I'll drop it in right now. Yep.
Thank you so much. And then we'll put it up again in our chat just so we can have that. We're always looking to gather data throughout and making sure that we can respond to the support systems that are in place. So what I'm going to go ahead and do right now is I'm going to go and open up the breakout room specifically for Ed TPA. If you're taking Ed TPA, please join that room. If not, stick around in the main room, and then we'll start talking about the Cal TPA. And if you're unable to join because you have something with your security settings or updates or whatever it may be, just let us know, and we could put you into that.
Okay, good afternoon. I see that we have 2 in this room in addition to me. I'm just going to wait a few more minutes just to